to find this stuff again. So I think we have everybody here, so we don't need to bring up any of the alternates. By the way, thank you everyone for, it looks like we're all on the slate. Thank you, Sandy, for running again, and Tom and Dale. Thank you also for coming up as alternates again.
Sure.
I think that when do we present this to the board, town board, at the next meeting, CJ?
Well, Heather has become the real expert in this, but yes, I think you'll be making a recommendation at the next, the working meeting on December 14th.
Okay. Is that correct, Heather? Did she get it right?
Yes.
Sort of.
Okay, does anyone have any comments to make about the agenda or the the minutes from October 26th?
The only comment I had on the minutes was on line 31. It said Mike Ziegler spoke in opposition of large-scale solar. I'm not sure he was opposing all large-scale solar, but citing within the town.
That I think is correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get that, Heather?
I can email it to you, Heather.
Any other discussion on October 26th? Can I hear a motion to accept the minutes as amended by Deb's statement?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Okay, how about the November 9th meeting minutes? Does anyone have any comments on that? Have you all read them?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right, if there's no discussion, I'll hear a motion on accepting those minutes as written.
So moved.
And
Second.
a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? Okay. Doug, you want to give the report? Oh, we got to do privilege of the floor first. Do we have anyone here, CJ?
Yep, I have Mike Ziegler here.
Mike.
Hold on just a moment.
Hello, Mike, you're muted.
What is that?
There we go.
Okay, did you have something you wanted to say? Let's talk about this on our agenda tonight.
Yeah, no, I saw that solar is again on the agenda, so I want to thank you for that. Certainly something we need to talk about just because there is some urgency to the whole thing. I was going to go up to Rochester for a public hearing. That was then made virtual. I was then going to go up to Watertown for a hearing. That was made virtual, but I did end up going to that one. All of the public hearings on this are going to be done November 30th. So the state basically is done taking public comment. So I'm glad that we were able to get all ours in, but I'm really hoping that we can actually maybe move something along just because they're going to be done soon. And I'm really hoping we can get some rules in place for this specific thing before they put their rules in place. I mean, I counted heads last time. It sounded like one person was for 100, one person was for 2, one might have been able to go to 5, another didn't think it really mattered because the state was going to do what it's going to want. I mean, I get that 1,000 feet setback may not work. I looked at the Kirby property. I mean, obviously, like everybody else did, and it didn't seem like that would. It certainly did seem like 500 feet would work. But again, yeah, the state's going to come in and say, they're going to negotiate, I hope, with that. So hopefully, the bigger the number is, the more we have to negotiate with them. It did not occur to me, to be honest, that the Kirby property, that's already has an option to lease on it, and that's 1,300 acres. And that sits right next door to CS Power's project, which is another 13 acres. So we're really looking at a much bigger swath of land than even kind of I've been telling people. We're looking really at 2,600 acres, not 1,300 acres. So anyway, like I said, I went to both places, not a ton of speakers, not a ton of public input either way. Some industry input, but even they, not a lot there. So anyway, thanks again for taking this up. Even if you were to move something like today, I know that the town board, they're going to want to put it to a public hearing. So that pushes us all the way into January. So I just, the timeline is short. So thank you again for taking it up. And I hope something can kind of come out that the town board can make a move on. So thanks again for all you're doing.
Mike, let me ask you a quick question. On those two properties that you just brought up, are they contiguous?
If they're not contiguous, they're pretty darn close. Kirby's property runs right up, what's that road? Lansing Station, not Lansing Station.
East
Schoolhouse,
Lansing.
right?
East Lansing Road.
East Lansing Road.
Yeah.
So
So
that
if
goes
we-
all the way up to Van Ostrin. So yeah, then if you go down Van Ostrin, it'll go all the way to Peruville. So that's kind of the chunk of land we're looking at.
So if we have a 500-foot setback on each property, you're looking at your 1,000 feet between them.
Yeah, but then again, that's something the state's going to
Property
do in their siting. It's basically going to their planning board, and which is their siting. So they'll say, yeah, you don't need 1,000 feet between the two projects. But then again, what's in between those two projects? You'd have to look at what road is going to separate those and
Right.
how many houses are in there. That's a good
Oh, I
question.
was just suggesting that if you had 1,000-foot setback, then you're looking at 2,000 feet between them if the property line's contiguous.
Well, on either side of the road, but that would just eat into the project that's going to be 1,300 acres.
Well, and hopefully the project's more than 2,000 feet wide.
I think CS runs east and north.
You think which?
What runs east and north? I'm sorry.
The second one, I think, runs east and north.
And the first one runs?
I'm not sure exactly where that one is, but
I don't know what you did. She wasn't there.
We'll call her back.
but
Has,
the group that's centered in Groton that has
Not working.
Scheffler, Buck, I believe, quite a bit is well on the east side of this, and I think it runs north rather than south. Not sure. I haven't seen any of the maps. I'm just going by the people that own the property.
Uh-huh. Well, thank you very much, Mike. Oh, go ahead, Al.
Just a quick comment. I spoke with another local farmer, and he indicated to me that there are additional landowners that are going to be involved with substantially more acreage, at least what he's heard through the so-called grapevine. So it's not just the Kirby farm and the old what is it, Mattoon farm, but there's additional farmers in and around that area that appear to be on board with leasing their land and or selling the acreage to the solar companies. So it may end up being substantially more than what we are hearing about right now, unfortunately.
I went to Cortland a week or so ago and was surprised to see a mini, I think it's a mini solar farm on Lime Hollow Road. And I noticed that even with a tree buffer, it was easily seen. So I think the more setback, the better, I guess, if you don't want to see that from the road.
And Sandy, that site was clear cut. That was overgrown with trees.
Yeah.
So they went in and actually took the trees down on that site.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Doug, what does the town board want or would want from us as a planning board in regards to this? Can you shed any light?
I don't think we've really talked about it much, other than, banter back and forth. I guess your suggestion would be paramount to anything we would consider. At this point, I know we're up against our backs are kind of against the wall in this regard, just because of the timeline. And the state, once again, does what they want. So, how do we stop it? We ran into this obviously at the DOT bar. So, I don't know there's much we can do with setbacks. I'd say if we could offer up something quickly, that would work. Or we could try to implement it, but I'm not speaking for the 4 other members and or
Sure.
Ed or anyone else. So, this is, it seems to me that the state brings this on in such a late stage of this situation. When did we hear about this initially?
Long
3
time
months ago. So, that's not a lot of time in politics not politics, but in government implementation of laws and whatnot. So it's hard for me to say. I don't want to see it either, personally. But if farmers are selling their land and doing that on their own regard because they aren't making money farming, how do you slap them down? So like I say, I don't want to see it any more than anyone else does. I've driven by the community solar project on Jerry Smith Road several times, and to me, it's unsightly. But
Now, how many acres is that? Is that 25 acres? What is that?
I believe that meets I believe it's under the cap for community solar.
It's 50.
Which is 25 acres.
If you're trying to put it in perspective, that's 25 acres, and we're talking about something that may be 3,000 acres. That's huge.
Once again, with all due respect to everyone and everyone else, we're fighting the state. And I don't know how much we can do about that.
Do we have what is the setback in the current solar law for smaller solar?
I personally don't know.
Dean, do you know?
I know these are about
Depends on the zone.
75 feet off, 100 feet off the road. In our
For
community.
small solar, are we talking small solar here with the,
I think that was the question, Jerry. What is our current setback in that regard? And
I think
I
that
don't-
was 50 feet.
yeah, I don't.
Nothing in
It's
the
not.
front
It's not
yard.
that far off the road.
Is that right, Dean?
Let me pull it up.
You remember?
I don't remember.
It's 60 feet.
60 feet?
Yeah, in most zones. Obviously B1 and B2 with site plan approval would be less, same with IR. But as we know, the state is not going to authorize site plan approval.
Did we have anything in the solar panel? Did we take into consideration when we discussed that law about contiguous properties? Seems to me I remember some discussion about that, but we had wanted to have the setbacks we thought had to still be there, even if the properties were right up to each other, sharing a property line. Do you remember that, Gene?
I remember the discussion. I think that at the time we were not thinking about parcels that were 120 times larger than 25 acres.
That's for sure.
And I think
We were
that
not.
we were considering that it might be a good thing to have 0 setbacks where, a project would encompass more than one property.
And then in order to allow that, we could put a bigger setback around the perimeter of the property of the project. Instead of each individual property be able to, in other words, squeeze everything to the center. But I can't remember what actually got, I remember the discussion, but not what actually got written down and passed to the town board.
So we basically have no real setback in any of the laws right now on the books. Is that right?
Yeah, we have the same setbacks for any other use. They're uniform by zone.
We didn't put a special setback in for solar panel in the solar law.
There are some minor differences in small scale systems. So for instance, small scale solar systems that are ground mounted can't be placed in side or rear yard setbacks or buffer areas, park or playground, recreational set-asides, front yards, things like that. Smaller scale systems, ground mounted small scale systems.
And those are limited by lot coverage too for the small systems.
I think this is good that they're taking comments. I think that, private property is private property, and that's kind of the balance here. What do you do to the landowner? And I would feel that under this comment back and forth period, that the legislators might listen to a letter from the town board expressing concern, and they might be able to put pressure on the governor's office, but your governor's decided he's going to do this. And as mentioned, much like a state highway residency, and there's been squeaking since last March as to how this was all going to come together. It's not new, but we will see. NISDAM's going to have their part to say, but obviously other people are going to have a lot to say at the same time. So we shall see as to how they're going to look.
You'll need to mute yourself, Mike. You're muted, Mike, but go ahead. There you go.
No, and I understand what Lynn is saying, obviously. Listen, the state, yeah, I get it. The state's going to do what it wants to do, but I'm not calling for a moratorium. I just don't want it to look like garbage. I mean, I guess I'm kind of at a quandary there that I kind of thought that's what we all want. Like, we want the town to look a certain way. And I don't know. I don't think 100 feet cuts it. To be honest with you, I went over to the DOT because I'm getting complaints about the DOT from the people that live on Hillcrest. They're saying, this is terrible, this thing that was built. So I went up and I looked at it. And yeah, I mean, I get what their point is, particularly where the judge lives. I can, you obviously can see this thing, it's big. But to the state's thing, they actually planted pine trees of some size. They didn't just go into Lowe's. The pine trees they planted are about 15 feet high. They didn't plant enough maybe, and the setback from the house is probably as far as you could have set it back, I think. So I don't know. I mean, the setback from the house to their fence line, that looked like over 500 feet to me, and their property line, the building, I don't know what the setback was, but it's substantial. So, I mean, even if the state does recognize these things, and that was, you're building something in an industrial zone. I mean, here's something that literally none of the people that are going to be impacted by this, and I've got all the signatures I got are from local people. It wasn't like I went statewide with this. These are all people that live in your town. These are your neighbors. And they're going, yeah, I don't really want a solar factory on top of my house. And listen, I get that. I mean, I get complaints about farming too. When a farmer sells off all the lots and then they build a bunch of houses there, but the guy across the street is still farming. Yeah, I get it. We're a farming community, and I have to tell those neighbors, listen, yeah, I mean, that's still farmland across the street. I do have hopefully a chat with the farmer that says maybe you don't dump the manure right across the street from their house. That would be kind of neighborly, something that maybe you want to consider so that everybody kind of gets along. But yeah, he has the right to do it. And I don't know, sometimes, yeah, you have the right to do things. And if it's your neighbor, you can go talk to them. Once these things are built, I'm never going to see these people again. I'm not going to see somebody, a representative from CS Power, to say, God, the trees you planted all died. Who do I call about that? You know, if there's a fire in the thing, who do I call? Do I call CS Power? I'll probably just call my local fire department. I mean, that's the thing. Once this is done, it's done. And so that's why I'm really hoping that you guys can, really, look at maybe those 7 things, or the other people had great ideas. I thought the posting on a property that's going to get something built is a great idea. And I'm hoping maybe you look at that and say, yeah, let's pass that. Let's get that through, and let's get the setback through. And that way, when the state comes in and says, yeah, this is the plan. Okay, well, here's what we'd like to see. And then we have a sit down and we chat. But otherwise, I don't know, they're just going to come in and say, you don't have any rules. It's going to be like the Wild West. So.
Is there any data on land values or, for people, property owners around these large solar farms?
There's been some studies out there to determine whether there's a loss in value based on the proximity of these large farms. But most of those studies that I've seen are generated by computers. And I mentioned this to CJ. I said, if computers could tell you loss or increase, then there wouldn't be any need for assessors or appraisers. The bank would just have the computer give them a value when you wanted to buy or refinance your property. So I don't put a lot of weight in the studies that have been done so far. And there's also been some studies that say that, yeah, there is a loss in value. So there's really not enough history out there of true loss of value or time or experience out there. So unfortunately, again, we're in whatever it's called, a beta phase with the impacts of these large scale industrial solar farms or power plants, however you want to address them.
Well, I could see that, like if someone was to try to sell their house in the middle of a solar farm, they might have a, difficulty in doing so.
I think, you have to put yourself in the shoes of a prudent buyer. How do you think a prudent buyer would react to a property that's within close proximity of this? Some people say they think the typical buyer wouldn't care, and there's other people that say, boy, it really would negatively affect the property. Again, there's not enough information out there that I know of to say one way or the other. Personally, I think there would be a loss in value and marketability.
So are we capable of passing, or the town board actually, of passing a law with a certain distance from somebody's property line? Would that, that would be passed after we have the closing of the hearing for this, for the regulations. Would that law still have any weight with the ORS group?
Somehow I doubt it, but it's possible. CJ, you just sent us all did we already send something up to the town board? A resolution?
No, I think that our goal as a committee should be to finalize our recommendations to the planning board with a consensus, and that we should send it out in time for our next working meeting. And it should be on the agenda for the working meeting beginning of December. And that as a board, we should hash it out and send our recommendations up to the town board before their next meeting.
I sent along a proposed schedule of adoption.
Yes,
that
to
everybody can take a
amend
look
the
at?
existing law.
Yeah, you got it.
Would that take a public hearing in that regard?
Yeah, we got to go through the whole.
So we're still
Shebang.
looking at January then. Easy,
Mm,
best case.
The
I
town
would
board,
say town board, well, it depends on if you wanted to do any kind of public information outreach or anything like that, or how long you wanted the comment periods to be, but I assumed that they would run on the same schedule as the last one, so that has us doing, working on the draft local law between now and essentially early January to be able to get it to town board mid-January.
So it's out of the timeline of the public hearing for the state.
Why
Yeah,
wouldn't the town board be able to initiate some ideas? I don't think it's law that the planning board has to be the source.
Absolutely not, Lynn, but I mean, we count on you for this detailed,
Well, that's
discussion.
so we can take the heat. But
Well, no, I don't mean to dump it on you, and you know that, so
no,
stop.
I'm just saying.
But what I'm
that-
getting at is that you're still got to go through the protocol of this whole situation. And
Larry?
we've done it before. We've tried to do it several times, and this is the way it works.
Larry?
okay, here's the deal. The state's
Oh,
gonna,
deal, Larry.
the state's gonna do what they're gonna do, but if we have a law in place, when they start to do it, then they're gonna listen to what we have. They're gonna look at what we have. And that's the point, the negotiations, if there are any, is gonna start.
That's
So,
fine,
yeah.
but that's fine, but that process takes time.
Right.
As you know.
The point.
I agree with you, everybody. Please. It's a
point
process that we have to go through.
The point
It's a
that I'm trying
process.
to make is that we are ready on the committee to make a proposal to the planning board. I think the planning board is going to be ready to pass that on to the town board. But we just can't be talking about it endlessly. We got to get off the stick and move and do something.
Very well. We'll get that proposal to the town board by our next meeting, and we can discuss it. And
So-
certainly through emails and everything else, we can discuss it.
So
However, it's still a process.
We understand, Doug.
Thank you.
Larry, when is the committee ready to propose to the planning board? By the next meeting? Is that what you're saying? Which is a working meeting?
Actually, I think Dean, you've got pretty much everything wrapped up, correct?
Yeah, I think that we just need a couple emails back and forth between the committee members to kind of come to a consensus of what we think is going to fly and what we want to recommend. And we should probably do a little bit of background to make sure we're tying each thing into the existing law where it would fit, so that it's really ready for the planning board to not have to spend a lot of time on it, other than looking at maybe a specific number like setback, for instance, to not really have to talk about setback a lot other than just the number, for instance, and then off to the town board it goes and through their process.
So CJ, what's the date of the next meeting?
December 14th.
14th? I was going to say 4th, but I would have been wrong. So, and that's a working meeting?
Yes.
The 23rd is our next open meeting, right? I mean, agended meeting. So let's see if you can bring something by the 14th. Dean and Larry.
We could
And
have
then
something ready by the end of next week and then send it out to the board members so they have time to digest it before that meeting.
Very good. Yep, that'd be
Come in
great.
ready to roll.
So do you want to follow the proposed revision schedule? Or do you want me to try to edit it, to try to compress it a little bit? Or
I'm not 100% sure. In looking at the proposed schedule, we have a bunch.
this was
review-
written when the,
Yeah, we have a bunch taken over from 2019, but then we go into a bunch of dates in April with public hearings. Was this all 2020 or 2019 or 2020? It looks like, but in other words, at the bottom, you have a
Oh,
bunch
yes, those
crossed
are
out.
old. That's the previous schedule. So I just duplicated the previous schedule. Just put
Gotcha.
a new series of dates in that assumed actually that comments to the siting office were going to be due on
So
today.
probably this will need to be updated to the planning board review up to the December 14th meeting. I think we'll figure to try to make a decision and put together the wording at the meeting of the 14th. And has the town attorney been looking at it, been reviewing it?
Well, the town attorney has been focused on the siting office regulations and
Right.
that analysis, of course. But if there's a good draft to start circulating and for me to take a look at, I am more than happy to do that.
Yeah, a lot of this review stuff in your schedule is due to be done by December 14th meeting. Correct?
Yep. And so do we have, a good draft going? Did anyone else add any comments to that document that went around or?
I think that Dean is going to be sending it around once the committee has a little bit more input, then Dean will send it out to all of us and we can review it before the December 14th meeting and make whatever suggestions we want to it via email. Is that legal?
Yeah, sure. You're just
Then let's try to
discussing a document. Yeah.
Yep, let's try to do that. And we'll have our discussion at the December 14th meeting and try to come up with a resolution by then. That
Okay,
hopefully,
I'll forward that out to tomorrow to make sure everybody has it, and we'll go from there.
thank you very much.
So so just everybody knows, we have to put that on that agenda for our regular town board meeting.
Hey, that GSA person signed.
So this is saying, according to her schedule, that it'll go to the town board for your Wednesday, January 13th meeting. Does that sound right, Doug?
As long as it's on the agenda for that meeting.
Is that what
No,
you're
you're
suggesting?
you're putting that on the agenda prior to you even adopting anything.
No, I'm saying
No.
I'm not putting it on the agenda, sir. I am suggesting that we have a schedule, and that's if we can maintain the schedule, that is when it's scheduled to go.
Okay, once again, it has to be on the agenda well prior to that point. So this is whatever you put forth has to be a week or two before.
We'll have
When is the
something.
town board meeting in December?
Yep, we'll have something coming out after the December 14th meeting, and it'll be on your agenda before the January 13th.
That's within a week, which isn't enough time. It probably would be enough time, but we have to get it on that now. So you're coming up with some proposal by that point. We've already got it on the agenda that you're going to have a proposal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we will.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So do we have to,
At this point, we can get a hold of Deb Munson and have it on the agenda for that discussion. And I'll talk with Ed and Guy and see if that, and Deb, and make sure that we can do that and get it on that agenda.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mike. We appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thank you all for listening.
Is there anything else on privilege of the floor? CJ?
No.
Then we'll move right along to our town board liaison report.
Wait a minute, I gotta settle down. All right.
Turn the AC on.
I'm all set. A relatively short meeting, our last meeting. Of Cornell University update, questions and answers was the first thing on the agenda with Joel Molina, Vice President of University Relations, basically talking about the COVID, their COVID policy, and what they were doing. I think Cornell obviously is doing quite a good job at this point with everything they do with regard to the COVID. Other than that, there wasn't much other than their testing schedules and stuff like that, which I can't remember, so don't ask.
I could tell you.
Well, thank you, because you are. So Judy Drake was next with Bolton Point, the auto workers agreement with the Bolton Point employees, and thank the board and the town board. The board member reports are in the minutes. We did have one person on the privilege of the floor, and this is of note. Dan Wiener is going to retire, so we won't have any more of his online
Publication.
updates, publication, everything else. He's trying to get somebody else to do it. Unfortunately, he hasn't found anyone at this time or as of last Wednesday. But he thanked the town board and we thanked him. He's done a wonderful job with his online publication. So there's not much else you can say other than that. I know it's a tough thing to see, but I don't think it'll be around. I wish it were, and I hope somebody picks it up, but that was all we had with that. We had several motions that we go where we are, our consent agenda, under our consent agenda. We had a resolution establishing 2021 sewer rates for all sewer districts. A resolution approving the standard workday and reporting for elected and appointed officials. We had a resolution approving collective bargaining agreement with the United Auto Workers for Southern Cuya Lake Intermunicipal Water Commission's employees for 2021 through 2023. A resolution approving bid documents for town hall and community building custodial services. And we had a resolution approving audit and budget modifications for the supervisor's report. We had a resolution hiring a full-time laborer for the Parks and Recreation Department. We adopted a resolution amending the town of Lansing COVID-19 leave time and travel policies. And we also had a resolution authorizing town supervisor to execute highway department building renovation project, building and siting programming, concept, alternatives, and analysis. And that's about what we had. So.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So are we ready to move right into the Rod and Gun Club lot limit change? Lot line change.
Sure.
We don't have very much on this, and I'm not 100% sure that I understand everything that we have.
Yeah.
Do you have any pictures, CJ?
There's no pictures. It's just a lot line adjustment. It doesn't meet the definition of lot line adjustment because they're conveying over an acre. So this is one of those situations where we refer it to the planning board. And if you are comfortable with us executing it as a lot line adjustment, just make a motion to that effect and we'll make sure it's taken care of.
Can you explain to us what's going on, CJ, with it? Or do we have someone here?
Yeah, sure.
Do we have someone here that wants to go over it with us?
If you're looking at this tax map or survey map, or if you're oriented with the arrow for north to the top, so you can read it normally, Lansingville Road would be, or Ludloville Road would be behind you. And the main complex for the Rod and Gun Club would be to your right across the street. And the Howell property that's marked 27-1-16.1 is actually tax map number 26.1-16.1. So I found that a little confusing. So that kind of orients you to where this is.
What are they, I can't figure out what they're doing with it.
Right, we have a parcel A and a parcel B and some land that belongs to the Rod and Gun Club and some land that belongs to the Howells. And I'm not sure what line is getting moved.
If you look at the Rod and Gun Club parcel, it's actually 44.11 acres on the tax map. And so they're conveying the two southernmost parts, it looks like, of that that overall acreage.
They're only conveying parcel A. The parcel B, they had thought about purchasing from Lansing Rod and Gun, but they are not. The plats or the surveys, the resale surveys that they submitted only include parcel A, but they brought those in after the planning board mailing. So they're conveying 9.22 acres. It's an adjustment of their westerly lot line to encompass the 9 acres.
So is this when they move their shooting range? Is
Nope, that's all across the street.
okay, okay.
So the question is, do we want them to consolidate or merge parcel A with their existing parcel?
That's
Yes
correct.
or no?
They have to, yeah.
They have to? All right, so then,
Yeah,
By them, you mean the Howells.
the Howells, yes. Howell's existing parcel and parcel A will be merged or consolidated into one large parcel.
I've got no problem with that.
Yeah, seems sensible.
Do we need a motion to move forward?
Yep, just make a motion authorizing it as a lot line adjustment. And
I so move.
And do we need to have a roll call vote or can we go with just ayes?
just ayes are fine for a motion, but you could do roll call vote if you wanted.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? So we are therefore suggesting that you make the lot line adjustment in-house. Thank you very much. And next we move into the petroleum storage.
Rabbito.
Yeah, now I don't remember when we had this before us before that there was any phase 2 involved.
Yeah, there was.
There
Does
was,
anybody else remember that?
yeah.
Yes.
Is there somebody here, CJ, to in the waiting room to talk about this?
Yeah, we have both the project applicant as well as town stormwater engineer to talk about the project as well. So hold on just a moment.
All right, we can bring them in.
Yep.
Do you want to present a proposal or should tell us what you're talking about here? Mr. Madison?
I believe all the information was submitted, and basically what's happening is Morabito is abandoning their facility on 3rd Street in Ithaca and moving their petroleum bulk storage up to the Lansing facility where they presently have one 30,000 gallon propane storage. They want to add another 30,000 gallon propane storage tank, as well as three 30,000 gallon petroleum bulk storage tanks in individual containment. And that's, and along with that, they're going to be constructing a garage, which I think it's going to be a 3-sided garage where they can back their delivery trucks in. And then they're going to be constructing an office building for 2 full-time employees. And then other, drivers may come in and utilize the office building on occasion throughout the day. So that's basically the proposal, the phase 2 part.
No maintenance facilities?
What was that, Larry?
No maintenance facilities for the truck?
No maintenance facilities.
Is the stormwater going to change, the stormwater pond, the size?
The stormwater pond size will not be changed. No part of how the stormwater is collected and transported to the pond and discharged out to the roadside, none of that's going to change. The entire stormwater plan is going to remain in effect. Right now, it's in basically a shutdown phase until new construction activities actually begin out there. So it's kind of been in suspension for several years.
Is the existing stormwater plan adequate for the additional 6,000 square feet of impermeable surface?
That's my question. Donnie?
Yeah, from my understanding, the first plan outlined all the phases, and the practices have been sized for all phases. So what we see is still current with current regulations. My one question, I guess, to that is if there's 30,000 gallon petroleum, is there any change in footprint proposed from the original that would change the impervious coverage?
I can look into that, but I do not think there will be any change in the footprint.
Yeah, so I think what Tim or Wayne outlined there, it seemed reasonable with all phases have been built and complete for the master plan of all 3 phases.
I'm ignorant. Is there, presume if this was all downtown, it has to comport, but is there any kind of minimum or maximum congregation of that much petroleum storage that would kick up a safety issue that has to be tended to? A certain size needs more setback from residents? I just throwing it out there. It's a lot of juice in one place.
Yeah, there's a second review by DEC, and Tim
Okay.
or Wayne can maybe speak a little more, but once you go into a petroleum bulk storage, there's a separate permit and a multi-sector speedies permit required on that piece for the secondary containment, which requires monitoring. But that would be controlled separately with DEC, separated from the original site layout, impervious surface drainage. So there'll be 2 independent systems there.
I'm all good with it. I just want to make sure that if there's a problem, the right information's to first responders and we don't have something bigger than we can handle.
Yeah, no, it's a sizable facility.
So this plan was what we discussed when we put this through back in a few years ago, a couple of years ago at least, when we did this. I don't remember seeing anything other than the original 30,000 tank, and that we were concerned about truck traffic and storage on site of anything else. And I don't remember seeing the buildings and the truck storage and the garage and retail space or any of that when we did this before, when we went over phase one. I'm seeing in the resolution that we discussed phase one, but I don't see where we discussed a phase two or a phase three.
Yeah, and the original SWIP that was approved by the town there did incorporate this plan that you're seeing with the future additions, petroleum storage and whatnot. So,
Interesting. My memory is probably getting worse as I get older, but I certainly have no memory of that in those meetings that we had. So the SWIP is in good shape. What we're trying to do tonight is declare lead agency on this. Is that correct, CJ?
Yep, that'll just start the seeker notification process rolling, and we'll reach out to any interested involved agencies and let them know the project's being reviewed.
And so we have a resolution to that effect. And I hear is there any more discussion?
I'm just wondering if we're going to see any information on the lighting for the project and it meeting dark sky requirements and the temperature levels we're looking for. And I see some notes in regards to plantings, but nothing in terms of what's going to be planted new and what size plantings are going to be done. So I'd like to see a little more information on that.
Especially with property next adjacent is now clear cut. So there's no buffer.
Yeah.
I think we did require them to put some evergreens up on the south line, I
And they're
believe.
growing nicely.
Yeah.
I can look into the lighting aspect, but there definitely are evergreens growing out there and have been so for at least 4 years on at least the west and south lines.
Yeah, north line.
Yeah, all the way around. But they are not a solid visual buffer.
Yeah, it's
Correct.
pretty good spacing. I would move that we be the lead agency.
Okay.
We need a roll call vote on this resolution, Heather.
Yes, you do.
Is there any more discussion? Okay.
Wow.
All right, Sandy,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Al,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
and Jerry.
Yes.
I used a big toothbrush.
All right. Okay, so this will be coming up in the next meeting or so. CJ?
Yeah, so tomorrow we'll follow up with a lead agency letter to interested and involved agencies, which I anticipate would be at least DEC. But we'll make sure town board and of course, or I'm sorry, town highway and fire, of course, have a good look at this, of course, as well, and code. There's also some photos there that you might see with a handwritten date on them. And those are from Lynn. He just wanted to have give you a sense of what the site currently looks like.
Would the review for this next phase give us an opportunity to review the buffering that's in place now and possibly suggest more if we don't think it's adequate as it is?
Yes, oh, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. Wayne, we appreciate you coming.
Thank you. I appreciate being here. Thank you.
Now we'll move to the wildlife,
Thanks, Tony.
whatever that is. I can't
He
read
doesn't
my
need to.
writing now.
Resolutions.
Resolution. So this is going down by the town barns. And TJ, what's this one about?
They're apparently putting a facility there or using a facility there, moving from the one that they had on Warren Road. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the wildlife resolutions apparently has taken over the what used to evidently be back in the day a disco ball factory, which is really kind of cool. And so they want to adaptively reuse the building.
Actually,
and-
it was a disco floor factory.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
For the North
Even more
40.
exciting. That's so
they
cool.
wear out fast.
Okay, so in any event, they are looking to connect Town Barn Road extension to kind of what would be the northwest side of their property line there, allowing access from that location. Lynn, of course, was concerned about giving them a house number on Town Barn Road extension without having the extension all the way complete. But I have confirmed with the highway department. I spoke with Mike Mosley about this just recently, that the Town Barn Road extension is suitably improved. Apparently Suit Coat had some extra material from a recent project they did, and they came over and improved the road all the way to the parcel line. So unless you see something specific of concern, we would just make a recommendation to town board for them to formally open that Town Barn Road extension.
So CJ, was the access to this previously from Peruville Road?
Yep, that's right. And that house was demoed some time ago, the one that was actually at 96. So they are looking to get a new address, looking to put up a sign, which I have to get the dimensions on that because it's hard to tell without any
Said 30
dimensions on the
by
drawing.
8 feet, I think, for the sign.
Okay, I didn't see it on the drawing, but I think maybe it was in the application, for the sign permit application. So yeah, so he's essentially just looking to, formalize that entry and also get a fire and safety permit and essentially
Formalize the entry from the Town Barn Road.
You got it. Yep.
Yeah.
Just one quick comment. The storage container, make sure it doesn't encroach or too close to the property line. We had that problem with Duthie's just close to that where they put the barn up. Duthie's, they put a barn up that was within 10 feet of the property line, which is just north of this.
Yeah, I think that we're probably going to want John to think about doing some buffering to the south, since it looks like they cut down some of the large trees that were there. If you look at one of the photographs, it looks like they've cut a bunch of trees down. So they may want to look at buffering this from the backyard of the house, adjoining houses on Peruville Road.
Yeah, the house was kind of hiding that property, and now that it's gone, it's kind of wide open.
Do you know what their plans are for all that fill that's piled up there?
I did ask about that and did ask them to complete a notice of ground disturbance as well. I think it's just shy of an acre, the fill that's there, but I've asked John to follow up with that.
So at the moment, again, we just want to declare lead agency here.
I move that we become the lead agency.
Second.
All in, it's a resolution, so you need to do the roll.
Yep, we do. All right, Sandy, Sandy,
Yes.
Lynn,
Aye.
Al,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
and Jerry.
Yes. All right, so we'll be hearing from them again, I'm sure. Now, Village Solars, are they waiting so they can explain to us what they're up to? Because I'm confused by this one too.
Let's see, Larry did send an email earlier today. And I forwarded on with the map. But I couldn't tell exactly what they were asking for per se. Because it seems like they don't have that many units built already to ask for an additional 8. I did some of the math with Lynn. So I wasn't sure about the rezoning question that's in item 1. And then I think they want to change some of the trails around internally. And if it's, pleases the planning board, we can just forward that to get a referral from the Parks, Recreation, and Trails Committee. But I see Larry is here to speak about the project. So hold on just a moment. I'll let him talk on the project's behalf.
Hello, Larry.
He's on mute.
Hey.
Nice to see you all.
Be nicer if we were all down to the town hall, but could you explain to us what we're doing here?
I've been watching you on the live feed. I'm lucky enough to have an old computer that I had that on, so I could switch over to my new computer here to talk to you.
Nice. Okay, so what's the plan here? Are we looking?
Who knew COVID was going to come? Rocco may join us, young Rocco, and he may have a different opinion, but we feel very lucky that we've only financed this job 2 buildings at a time. And what we've discovered with COVID is people really like the 1-bedroom unit. So the first thing we have on the list, when we designed the community center, you had approved 20 1-bedroom units, and we actually went and took our 18-unit building and found we could take one of the two of the 2 bedrooms on the ground floor and make 2 1-bedroom units out of each of them. And it worked out so well. We'd like to do that with the number 2 and the number 22 building that you've approved for 18 units each, which would bring each building to 22 units each by taking 4 of the 2 bedrooms in each of them and making 8 1-bedrooms out of them. There is an unending demand for 1-bedrooms with the COVID that we're in and with the population that we serve, which tends to be over 60% professional people, many of whom are single households. So that's the first thing we were asking. That wouldn't add any square footage to any of the buildings or any of the footprint. It would add to the parking requirement. So we would add 5 spaces per building. The number 22 building is right adjacent to the parking lot for the 24 Village Place. And it's very underutilized. That particular parking lot is the most underutilized in the whole complex. Also, what COVID has kind of done away with the restaurant and the gym. So the 30 spaces we were going to have for the restaurant are available just north of the 2 building. The office right now is in the 1067 building. It will be in the community center. And the community center has been given the address of 1073 if you're trying to follow these addresses. So there's more than enough parking for what I'm proposing, which would be 5 extra spaces per building. The other thing that we found, not only with COVID, but with the proximity to Morris Chain, the Cornell Research Park, and the Lansing Research Park, is that there are professional people who come into town for some length of time, and they almost need an extended place to stay. So we were asking for the ability to lease on a weekly or monthly basis. Not quite an Airbnb situation, because we have an on-site staff to basically keep up with the maintenance and the comings and goings. But neither do we intend to run a motel either. But there are people who come to town for weeks and months, but not years. And I guess that's what we're getting at. And it's a little unique to Lansing because of the facilities I just mentioned to you. So that's the second thing on the agenda, would be the ability to have a shorter lease than an annual lease for 16 of the 572 units you've approved. So not for a whole lot, just it would help us keep up with our occupancy rate, any vacancy rate that has been prompted by all this.
Larry, those short term, will they be all in one building or 2 buildings?
They're all pretty much be in the 2 and the 22 buildings is kind of what we're anticipating right now. And another thing that you might be familiar with is with the COVID, the banks have gotten a lot more stringent on their equity requirements. And at the same time, they've come in, at least their appraisers, Al, come in and appraise things a lot lower than they used to. So it's kind of working at you from both ends. You end up having to have a lot more equity, and this would help with their evaluation of the equity. So we're intending right now for the most part to be on the ground floor of the 2 and the 22 buildings, the number 2 and the number 22 building. The next thing I mentioned, the restaurant is pretty much history for the foreseeable future, and we're going to have a vending facility with food goods in it, but we would like to have the ability to have a hot truck. And it would be parked adjacent to the community building on the south end of what's the office part of that building.
Building 1073.
1073, yes.
So Larry, on the restaurant and the cafe, I mean, we all can appreciate it wouldn't be successful today, but if the COVID goes away next year, the year after, what's going to be the status of that restaurant or cafe? Will that be built then?
Well, that'll be a decision made then. Right now it's pretty difficult to know. I mean, we're looking at, even with the gym, being supportive of the local community at the moment, so if they can get back in motion, that we would make arrangements with the gym that survived. I mean, there's basically the one in Cuba Heights and the one in Cuba Mall. So our thing would be the same thing with the restaurant. We would more than likely, Al, in the short term, make some arrangement with Chow and other ongoing facilities just to keep them going.
Yeah, but my
Rather
question
than,
is, originally you had space set aside for the restaurant. What's going to happen with that space tomorrow? Or
right
is that-
now, it's gonna have vending machines with food goods in them for the convenience of the tenants.
Okay. So you won't be putting in a kitchen then at all?
No, not at the moment, no.
But will it be like roughed in? Should you put a kitchen in the future?
No, that would have to be put in at that time. Right now, it's an office building.
I mean, part and parcel, community center, gym, COVID's going to be, make its dent and be out of here in a year and a half. Sounds to me with a changing of apartment, all fine, 2 bedrooms to 1, we kind of wad up the parking that was available for the restaurant. Am I correct?
Right now, the parking's still there, Lynn. What I was saying is the 5 spaces we would need for what I was asking for on building 2, it certainly would take up 5 of those spaces, but there's still going to be an excess amount of spaces there west of the 1067 building and the 1073 building. There's going to be excess parking. And we were kind of down to a snack bar before this all happened anyway. It was all a little wishful thinking, the restaurant, as we explored. Once this food truck idea came into the picture, it seemed to answer a lot of questions. Going back to Al's point, the commercial kitchen is a very expensive operation, and then the whole availability of gas with Nice Egg is a whole nother issue. So the food truck addressed a lot of things that we were struggling with.
Larry, are you looking to do some infrastructure for food trucks? So like an electric connection?
Here you have an electric connection and a water connection, and the area just south of the office would have a paved space that they could pull into adjacent to the building. And there would be a covered overhang in that area, and that whole area would be sprinklered. So it would all be according to code.
Does this require a change to the PDA by the town board?
Well, CJ didn't seem to think the 3 items I just mentioned would. The 4th item, which I haven't mentioned, would seem to be the one that would either require a waiver or a change in the PDA itself, which is the trails, which you all approved back 7 years ago. The way things have evolved with the sidewalks in front of all the buildings and such, I'm presenting an alternative plan to you that ironically is 0.05 miles longer than the residential trail, recreation trail that was proposed at the time. I think it's a better plan, but that's for you to judge, because there was a thought at the time that this east-west trail that's 8 foot wide and we paved was going to go somewhere. And unfortunately, I just found the PowerPoint that I presented to you 7 years ago today. So I don't know that you have that information yet. But my son had shown a route all the way down to the lake at the time. Well, right now it goes to Warren Road and no place else west of there. and no place east of there. So we built the 8-foot trail within the village solar portion of the PDA to date. We've also built the paths around the, what we call Pond 2, which is the southernmost retention pond. We built the trails around Pond 3A, which is between two buildings south of Village Circles North. And we're about to build a trail on one side of the pond north of Village Circle North. Now, since you first approved these trails, we changed the site plan north of Village Circle North quite a bit. So we had 5 buildings there that were not shown in the configuration when we approved these original trail. So what I've shown you and what I submitted was how I could complete a walking route that was 0.55 miles long with a few additions to what we've constructed already, with the promise that we would complete that 0.55 mile route when we completed the 2 and the 22 buildings next year. And it would get the trail off of Warren Road, which as we built this thing, I've become a lot more familiar with the speed along that road. And it almost seems better that we continue landscaping that area between the buildings or between the parking lot and the road rather than have a walkway right just off of the road there. And again, there was some thought with the pathway committee at the time that walkway along Warren Road was going to go somewhere, but 7 years later, it goes nowhere. So I've kind of mapped out to you, if it ever went somewhere north or south of this project, I could add just a little addition at the northwest corner or the southwest corner out to Warren Road that would connect to an extension. Right now, we see people walking, when they walk their dog and they want to go beyond this project, they go over into Cardamone's woodland area. And, you know, it's a very quiet road there, and they basically just walk the road as they do a lot of our parking lots with their dogs, especially. So again, I don't know that we envisioned people walking parking lots, but it's going on all the time with the dogs. There's things you don't anticipate. We didn't anticipate as many dogs either. So anyway, CJ can correct me if I'm wrong. We seem to see that this 4th item would be the one that would require some referral to the Park and Recreation Committee and then go on to the town board for a minor change in the PDA, either as a waiver or just a fair substitute of what you had approved in the first place.
Larry, Lynn, you two have been involved in this from the beginning.
I really did kind of look forward to a bigger community building presence. I guess it doesn't rule that out in the future. I think the food truck is a good idea on a temporary basis. I can certainly see not putting a commercial kitchen in. I guess I can see gas out of a bottle. May not make the aesthetics of everything wonderful. As long as the parking remains, mean, I see big changes with the current COVID, but we had big changes with the influenza in 1918, and right after that was the Roaring '20s, and I mean, Larry Fabroni remembers that for sure. So, no, it would be
There's a
nice
few of you
that
that might too.
actually happen, and I think the trails can be worked around. Disturbance of weekly rental, etc. I guess that people have to think about that, but everything's still on the table. I can see some let's wait and see attitude. The trail thing, I think if Trails and the Parks Rec likes what's happening, I guess it has to go before the town board. I don't know.
Larry?
As far as I'm concerned, I can see the difficulty with the restaurant. Anything like that would be market driven anyway. And currently, if you've been watching the news, Syracuse just went all orange. Restaurants are being shut down all over the place right now. So it's really a poor time for a community to insist that a restaurant be put in with this type of situation we've got going on. I have no problem with what's been proposed. I like the idea of the food trucks. Like Lynn, I see that we're not losing any of the parking. The potential is still open for a change later, but that will be market driven. As far as the pathways, it sounds like a fair swap to me. And if it needs to go to the Trails and Recreation Committee, then it needs to. But if you're swapping foot for foot, and it's very difficult for us to insist that it connect to something when there's nothing there for it to connect to. I have no problem with the proposal, with the request as proposed.
So in the spot, I would like to ask a question, that in the spot or the space that was going to have the restaurant, is that what's going to end up being there? Will that be community seating space? One of the things that we didn't foresee, that we're seeing a big thing in our Perkins restaurant over in Cortland right now, is DoorDash and Uber Eats are like giving us 10 times the business that we used to have just in the restaurant with seating space. And if we go down to single bedroom units, I'm wondering if it would be wise to put community space in there where people who ordered in from a restaurant, if we're not going to have one on site, can sit and congregate together with their food once the COVID thing is gone. Is that what we're suggesting?
Well, there would be adjustments when COVID was past us. I mean, we're kind of anticipating, at least for another almost year, that we're going to have vending machines, that people are going to come in and get what they want and leave. Or if we're into the better months, weather-wise, with the food truck, we might have some picnic tables around the South Lake that I mentioned, that's not just south of the community center, as a place where they can space out. I think, just like everybody else back in the spring, we hope this would all be gone by Christmas, but it's obviously going into next summer before everybody hopefully vaccinated or feels safe to be back to normal.
So let me get this. There's no room to put in a few tables and chairs. If somebody wanted to go to the vending machine and get something to eat, to sit down and eat, or in the wintertime, you're not going to be able to eat outside on a picnic table. There's no way you could figure what was supposed to be the cafe to put a few tables and chairs in.
There is room for that if that's your wish. There is room.
That would be about the rest of the board members, but I think that probably would be best for the community center and the community as a whole.
So Larry, a question on that same thing. Are you planning to have a public restroom there?
There's a public restroom that's accessible from the exterior of the building. And that space that Al is talking about is accessible from the exterior of the building. Right now, you can't get into the rest of the building from either of those. Well, you can during the day. That one of those, there's 2 bathrooms in that building, but one of them, the one I'm talking to you about, can be accessed from inside during the day. They're both unisex bathrooms, but they're specifically planned to be accessible from the exterior of the building so that after hours, the rest of the building could be locked for now.
So when, I think Al asked about roughing in for future, that's all slab construction there, is that correct?
That's slab on grade. Yeah, it's a truss. It's attic truss that's on the 2nd floor. So it's pretty much the whole floor plan can be
flexible,
redone pretty much, other than the bathrooms. So either the bathrooms are in the center of the building and there's a space. Well, it's roughly 30 by 20 on either side of those bathrooms that could be reconfigured in time.
So it would make sense to potentially extend, drainage into both sides, at least a stub, so you'd have something to connect to in the future without having to potentially rip up so much concrete.
But you'd have to have grease traps and other ways of getting rid of stuff other than just a normal drain. And you wouldn't be putting a grease trap in if you're not going to put a kitchen in.
Right, but if you just look at the bathrooms themselves, if you were to stub in some drainage that would extend, a couple feet into each one of those adjacent areas, you wouldn't have to rip up the bathrooms in the future in order to have a starting place to, to extend drainage to.
We haven't, the slab on grade is there, but we haven't put a floor surface in what's a garage space between the 3-story building and the office building, for the express reason I think you're getting at. Because if COVID goes away and the restaurant and the gym unfold, we have that whole space available to us to finish into more floor area than we have right now. I mean, right now it's just a garage for the golf carts that we drive around the whole site to show the tenants to, and to store a winter storage of bikes for the tenants. But that's another, it's 400 square feet that either could turn into a gym or, a locker room, and plumbing that you're getting after could be extended to either end of to the slab building pretty easily. I mean, I'm not saying that you wouldn't have 5 square feet of jackhammering to do at that point, but not a lot.
Well, that's what I'm after, is not a lot. So sounds good to me.
Any other questions?
Well, the one concern I have is if there's no restaurant and there's no gym, and there's no common area, what makes this a community building?
Well, first thing, we had a timetable to meet for you and the town board. So we had to build a community building in this time frame. And I guess my only easy answer is nobody anticipated the COVID. You know, this had to be changed in concept almost overnight to proceed on the timetable it's on and still meet basically the promises that we made to you. We'd like a bigger community center. I think we talked to you about that in the past. It's been complicated by the passing of Rocco Luceni and the settling of a pretty complicated estate. So if we become owners of the whole PDA, I think you could see the things that you're feeling are missing. But at this point, I don't know how else to put it. It's the best we could do and still
Well,
meet the expectations.
I think my point is following up from what my colleagues have said. All you can do to make this appear something that could easily be switched back into community center functions, I think it would behoove you to do.
Well, that's what I was just getting at. I mean, that we haven't finished that space between the 3-story building, and this building is roughly 30 by 60. So that space in between is 30 by 18, and it's not finished off. So we could add plumbing and reconfigure spaces when things, you know, we basically would be in a big financial hole if we built a restaurant and a gym. And so that's why I started out by saying we feel lucky that we only finance from year to year, 2 buildings at a time.
Yeah.
And Larry, I think I do want to jump in with one quick thing here, if I may, which is that the community features that we have right now, I would still argue that they are community features, since they are, you know, the vending area is going to be stocked with a lot of fresh food items regularly, and is going to provide a 24-hour food service to our tenants, as well as we're going to have still our deck that will be accessible to everybody. Our rental offices, our mail area are still going to be a part of it. So everything that is within the building is still for the use by the tenants. I think the big difference right now is the gathering aspect. We wanted to try to cut down on gathering to the extent that we could, because we didn't necessarily know when we were planning where this was going to go. You know, now it looks like Pfizer and Moderna have these things coming out, and it looks like it's, you know, there's going to be some good turnarounds here. But you know, when we were putting this together, I think one of our goals was to try to maximize our community features safely. So, you know, you have a market vending area that doesn't require any human contact. It's all machine run. So people can go in there and they don't have to interact with each other. You know, the food truck options are all outside. You have methods of getting rent and getting your mail that don't involve you having to interact with anybody. So I think that it's, you know, I think that we still have community features, which we will certainly be moving and improving based on what the market does. But I think that the big difference is that the features are now more set toward not creating gatherings. And that was sort of the idea behind the redesign.
Makes sense.
Well, the existence of a community center implies that there will be meeting space available for people in the community to get together and do things. And the whole idea at the beginning was to have space available that the community could use for meetings. Can we assume that there's a meeting room included in your offices that would allow that kind of community use?
There's a community room. There is a kitchenette that's adjacent to it. You know, so the things you would typically have in a conference room can double as it for that purpose, Larry.
I think, I think if you're calling something a community center, it should have something for the community in it. So you can at least, if that were made clear, I think that would answer a few of our questions.
Right. I agree with Larry that say the COVID does go away in a year or two. The COVID goes away in a year or two. If I'm a tenant and I want to have a birthday party for my child, there is a community room that I could lease out and have a get together or whatever it may be, something similar to that.
Not only is there that, there's actually an indoor area and an outdoor area, and that's a part of our current plan. So yeah, we are certainly going to be able to facilitate gatherings when doing so is safe. It's just that we didn't want the community center's success or failure to be based entirely on the ability to do that. And I think that was one of the driving forces behind doing this, given the timing of when it was going to come out.
I mean, the issues that are going on, Al, right now, I mean, we have that garage space. You could easily have 10 picnic tables in that garage space, but with the issues that come up like almost daily right now, I mean, we haven't planned that out.
Right. But I'm saying, we all hope that things are going to get better in the future, and there's going to be a need for some gathering space, as Larry said, for meetings for the people in the community. And as I said, maybe a birthday party or a shower or whatever it may be. It'd be nice to have additional space available for whatever it may need, the occasion that may come up.
Sounds like you got that covered.
Yeah, I would definitely say that we have it covered and we have the capacity to expand it as well, if need be.
Okay.
Okay, CJ, what was your anticipated result?
Well, first I just wanted to be clear about the additional units. Larry, you were saying you wanted to go from the 572 that's listed in the PDA to, did you say +8? 572?
Yes.
Okay, and so,
We did
okay, but,
before.
and maybe you kind of already went over this, but I guess I'm just, you're not quite at 572 yet, right?
That's what we have approval for under the change that was made in, I believe, 2017. We were approved for a total of 572.
Right, okay, but why do you want to increase to 580?
Because I would be adding 4 units to each of those buildings that you've approved. You approved them as 18 unit buildings, and by taking 4 of the 2-bedroom units and making 8 1-bedroom units out of them, we add 4 units to each of those buildings.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is that they're not yet constructed, all the 572. What's the total constructed right now? I think it's like 4 and change, right?
I know the new units, we have almost 300 new units, but
right. And how many existing? I'm only asking because the thing is that the number 572 is repeated so many times in the PDA because it's tied to sewer units as well. So I anticipate that would probably need to be a rezoning. So if you didn't need the 8 extra units, or I guess that's what I'm kind of confused about.
So CJ, is what you're saying that, and I just want to make sure that I'm understanding that you don't think we have the 572, and as such, we may be able to build the 44 units within the phase without expanding the overall plan. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think that's really what I'm getting at, is that I don't think you're even close to 572 yet, for full build out.
Yeah, we're nowhere near that because of again, the other partner in all this passed away, so there's not been any activity on his 138 units. You know, I just don't know off the top of my head to tell you how many others there are, but there's roughly 100 other units right now. So we're somewhere around 400 at the moment.
So you're not looking to get up anywhere as close to 572, which is in
Not soon, yeah.
at the present time, and unless you end up picking up the other properties.
That's correct. That's going to change a lot of things. We've also, we bought the 8 acres north of the PDA, which, you know, in time, I think you can expect to see us back with a proposal that envisions that more as open space and adds density to the PDA, but that's down the line. So I'm just mentioning that because from time to time you said you've seen me too many times, and I didn't want to give you false hope of never seeing me again.
So CJ, you're saying that we could potentially just approve the additional or the changes to these buildings to go from 18 to 24 units?
That's not even a,
with-
yeah, that's
without-
allowed by right. I mean,
Exactly.
22.
Yeah.
So it really
Yeah.
doesn't really require our approval.
The only time it's require our approval is if we get to the end of the project, you have picked up the other ones and you're going to end up going over 572.
Right, but if we get the other part of the project, I think you'll see us before then. So that works. If that's easy.
Wait, so what happens when you revise number 2 and 22? Is that part of the 572?
Yes. You've already approved that for 18 units in each of those buildings. And that's going to be built next year. And that's what I'm asking for, without changing the size of that building or the square footage. We can add 4 units and end up with 8 1-bedrooms where we would have had 4 2-bedrooms.
All right, so let's back up again. So 2 and 22 were originally going to have multiple bedrooms, and that was revised to have all 1-bedrooms. Is that right?
No, not all. Not all, just
not all, but on the first and second floor, yes.
First and second. Now you're asking to do the same thing with the other units that were approved for 2 and 22.
When we designed the community center building, the 21-bedroom units is when we made that change on the ground floor. And because it was so easy to do, and at the same time, we were getting this overflowing demand, believe it or not, for the smaller 1-bedroom units, is why I'm coming to you and asking to do that on the first and second floor of the 2 and the 22 buildings, where we have a similar floor plan. It's the same building that we built at 116 and 119. They were both 18-unit buildings with 2 bedrooms instead of the 1-bedroom units I'm suggesting. So it's the exact same building when you see the footprint and you look at it from the outside, and the same number of bedrooms in the total building. Obviously, we have an extra 4 kitchens if you give us this approval, you know, like basically we split the space pretty easily and added a kitchen.
We don't have a problem with that, right, CJ?
The unit mix and the units allowed by right, I don't think are an issue for the planning board. I believe that the trail reconfiguration as established in the PDA is the most, I guess, the request most related to amending the site plan. So, and the PDA to a degree, I think the town board would need to issue a waiver to move the trails around. I think it would be helpful to have input from the Parks, Recreation and Trails Advisory Committee, since that's what they're doing. And then refer it to the town board. And if you guys still want to pursue the zoning change, you could, but basically we just have to do a whole local law to add 8 more units that you don't even
You don't
want to
need
build
do
right
that.
now. I mean, I don't know. It's your call, but I'm just not seeing the need for it, but maybe I'm missing something.
I think if everybody looks at the agenda and the proposed actions for tonight, I agree with CJ. Right now, we're not anywhere near the so-called 572 units being complete. There's a lot of space between now and the time when we have to worry about 8 units or where 8 units go. So I don't see that as a problem. And I think our point tonight would be to refer this on to the Parks and Rec Committee and to the town board because of the trails.
I concur with that. I do hope not at the end of this thing, somebody needs 6 units and they're going to come in with a hardship case because they gave them up now.
So do we
I
need a
think a
motion?
lot's
to
gonna
refer this
happen,
on?
Lynn, before that,
Do we need a motion to refer this on to the Parks and Trails Committee?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank
I
you to
so
the
moved.
Parks.
So moved.
Second,
And then do we want to include the town board into this motion?
it goes to them automatically, right?
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
we're gonna have to. But to
Yes.
the Parks and Recreations and Trails Committee for their input, and then to the town board. Do we want to include in it any recommendation for either, or
No,
No.
You want to get feedback back from the town board or from the Parks Committee before making a recommendation to town board for the waiver, right?
exactly.
Okay.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know. Everyone feel free to chime in here.
Okay, Dean, you've made a motion that we forward this to the Parks and Recreations and Trails Committee for their feedback, and that they'll get back to us at the end of that, or with some feedback. And Larry, you seconded that.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Abstain? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Be well. Have a
Thank you all
good
so much.
Thanksgiving, you all. Yeah.
Stay safe, and you too. So what's next on the agenda? The discussion items,
Britton Woods.
Britton Woods and Dollar General. Which one would we like to do first?
Britton Woods.
All right, so with Britton Woods, I believe, do we have some people that want to join the meeting?
Yep, Tim Buell is here. Hold on just a moment.
Hi, Tim. You're muted.
You'll need to unmute yourself, Tim.
Okay, I'm ready. You guys saved the best for last, right?
Well, next to last.
Almost last. I do have to make one comment though. I was watching Larry Fabroni. I was watching Larry Fabroni,
Uh-huh.
and it's amazing how much us old engineers start to look alike when we get in our 70s. Oh, geez.
It happens to all of us, whether we're engineers or not, I'm afraid.
You're muted again, Tim.
We're leaving.
All right, so the where we want to go with the, I guess that is Dandy still here, CJ?
Nope, he's not with
I
the
know.
meeting anymore. But,
Okay, I just
go
wanted
ahead,
to
sir.
make sure that Dandy and Tim agree on what they have left to get to each other, if there is anything, and make sure that we all have what we need so that at the next meeting, we can hopefully, well, I guess the first question is to the board is, do we feel we're going to need another public hearing on this? On the final plat? And that seems that
I don't think
for all
so.
the heads shaking, that we won't be wanting a public hearing, another public hearing. So at the next meeting, we should be able to have, if you guys have everything between you and it's all done at a time limit where we can get the information to the public meeting. What's the latest date that Tim could get you any information for the next meeting, CJ?
Hold on just a second. Let me take a look at the calendar. Dondi Town Engineers did agree to turn around any remaining comments, if there are any, by Tuesday, December 1st. So that should give plenty of time to turn that around. We would need materials by close of business, preferably by the 14th at the latest. So we'll do our best to turn around those comments as quickly as possible, assuming there are any.
So and there is a list of all the materials that we might want by the 14th. Did I see a memo that had that list in it?
Yeah, and I believe most of the comments have been addressed. So we're just going down the list and double checking everything for the final plat approval.
So if 100% everything's turned in by December 14th, we will be able to do a resolution on the 23rd. Is that when we have the next meeting?
21st.
21st.
December 21st. Yeah.
Is that understandable, Tim?
Yeah, sure. And I sent to CJ an email that Dondi, I think, is all set with the stormwater. We went through this back and forth, and I think we've had all those things have been resolved. So, but if he needs anything else, we can get it to him by the cutoff date.
There's a list of 8 or 10 things, and CJ's saying that most of them have probably been in, but we want to make sure 100% of them are done by the 14th, and then we'll take this up again at the meeting on the 21st.
It's fine with me. So
who's going to initiate what needs to get done? Is it CJ or Tim?
I'm saying we've given everything that they need, and if it's not the case, then I need to know that from somebody, either Dondi or CJ. So.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I've followed up with the things that I knew were outstanding, and I'm just following up to have Dondi do one last look over the documents. I think Tim has gotten us almost everything. We're just making sure everything's set for that final plat approval, since that's it. That's what's going to be filed with the county. So.
Okay, so Tim can expect something from Dondi in the near future then?
Yep, by December 1st, Tuesday, December 1st. Yep.
Okay.
I'll ask him to turn around as quickly as possible, of course.
Yeah,
You know, he does.
I don't think there's anything there, but are we going to have a public hearing or do we need one or not?
A public hearing? No, I don't think we need one.
Not much controversy over this one, so.
The board, right, the board, we got a lot of negative shakings of heads when I asked about that, so I think
Okay, good.
pretty
That'll
well
help.
unanimous that we don't need
Just
another.
don't make me come back there.
All right, thank you, Tim.
All right, thanks very much, folks.
Yep, you'll
Have a
be
good
here
night, and
by the 1st.
happy Thanksgiving to all of you, so.
And to you too.
Yep, thanks, guys. Okay.
And then the other one that we had was the Dollar General in North Lansing.
Yep, just admitting them now. Hold on just a moment. Steve was not available, so he said, I believe that Karen was going to attend.
Ed was the Dollar General in North Lansing.
Yep, just admitting them now. Hold on just a moment.
Have the board members been by the new dollar store on 13? Has everybody seen that?
On 13? Where is that?
By NYSEG, just north of
No.
NYSEG?
Oh, is that what that is? Yeah, I've seen it, but it doesn't have any signage up yet, does it?
No, but I believe it's better than a block building.
Ah,
There's also one in Union Springs.
Is that up now, Doug, Union Springs?
Provided about a week ago.
Okay.
It's not a block building. Well, it may be a block building, but it's got wood style siding and.
That's what I'm leading up to. The one in Dryden has a little bit of character to it.
Karen, did you have a proposal you wanted to make to us or any additional discussion?
Yes, good evening. I'll give a quick run through. For the record, I'm Karen Majanowski from Bowler Engineering, and I represent Franklin Land Associates. And we are here for continued site plan and subdivision review for the 5.7 plus or minus acre parcel of land on New York State Route 34 that we've met with the board a couple times regarding for this proposal. We would be subdividing out about 2 plus or minus acres to retain for the construction of the 9,100 plus or minus retail store that's there. We're proposing 37 parking spaces to accompany the store to meet code. And it's our understanding that we meet all of the other zoning regulations and bulk regulations for the district, and that this is an allowed use through site plan review. We've received DOT approval of our access location and design, which is an update we have since the last meeting. I did want to discuss the site layout, which is being proposed here. And I do have an exhibit to share if I may. If not, I'll keep talking. But I don't know if you can see that exhibit here. We have added a truck turn to this. So a key piece to this layout that they have is the arrangement of the drive aisles for proper and safe truck access and turning movements so that the truck doesn't have to back onto the state highway. So the site is designed so that the tractor trailer will pull forward across the drive aisle in front of the store and back into the area back by the dumpster where the service store is to receive deliveries, and then can exit straight back onto New York State Route 34. Another driving factor to this layout is the topography, the existing topography and the stormwater flow and where that needs to be. The low point of the site is that front left corner, shown on this exhibit in the southeast corner of the site, where stormwater would discharge. So we have to reserve that area on the low side of the site for stormwater management, as you can imagine. We've also received SWIP comments from the town's engineer and those all look addressable and minor, and we see no issues with those. So we're hopeful this evening to continue to gather feedback on both the site plan and the architecture. I think it will be critical as next steps to send this to the county for their review and comment, as well as set a public hearing so that we can gather the public's comments if required and continue to move forward. And with that, I'll turn it back to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. So CJ, are we going to want to set a public hearing on this? And is there, well, let's do that first. Do we,
You certainly could.
do we
We
have
set
all the
that for-
information that we
Yep.
need?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think before there's a public hearing, I think the planning board has some input that we want to put into the site layout. We've been discussing reversed frontages or side entries, moving the building forward towards the road and not having a parking lot in front of the building, having it on the side of the building and in the back. Combining that with a side entry to make it more convenient for the people, since the parking is on the side and the rear. And we want architectural changes to the front to give us a gabled end. So it'll be similar to the rest of the other buildings in the area, particularly the fire station across the road and the old Alcona. Also, we want to consider to back this up, because before we were told that Dollar General doesn't ever do that. We have since viewed a web page of Dollar General stores with gabled front ends and different types of architecture that all are better than the one that we have in South Lansing. So since we were told before that nothing but the square block building could be done, and since that we found out differently, we're a little bit encouraged by the fact that other towns have been able to get you to accommodate local aesthetics. And based on that, we're looking for the changes that I had mentioned.
So yeah, I'd like to chime in a little bit. Karen, one of the things that I brought up at a previous meeting, the other engineer, was on the landscaping. So if you look at the plan, you'll see that grass, an unfinished fence, and 12 spirea around the sign out in the front is the extent of the landscaping. So that seems to be pretty inadequate.
Okay, do you have any other specific suggestions on landscaping we could incorporate?
I did get a conversation with one of the landowners, and they are requesting a large, aesthetically pleasing privacy fence, since the store will be bordering their property. They don't want to see it.
So that's as opposed to the unfinished stockade fence that is suggested. I would certainly like to see more on the road frontage in terms of the bushes, something attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Is it possible to provide us with some options on exterior design, architecture? Is that
Certainly,
possible?
we can do that.
Can you give
Yes.
us like 2 or 3 samples of what you would be inclined to construct? And maybe the board could comment on the 2 or 3 or more?
Are you looking for materials choices? This is what
Yeah. In other words, yeah, colors, the style, as Larry said, the roof pitch or false roof pitch, or just some samples of other dollar stores that have been constructed that you would be inclined to support, and the board could possibly say we like A or B or a combination of A and B. Is that possible?
We can do that, certainly. And if there's any, more specific requests that could help us kind of narrow this down, that's why we're here this evening to gather any other comments as we can prepare another option or two or three to bring back.
One of the things that Larry was talking about was moving the building to the front of the lot, closer to the road, although maintaining setbacks and putting the parking around the rear with side entrances is something in our comprehensive plan that we're trying to move towards in the town.
And that would still give you the opportunity to have a turnaround for the tractor trailer with the parking lot extended to the rear.
So if the parking were to the rear,
To the side and the rear, yes.
to the side and the rear, yes, we have a couple concerns with that. One is the ease and the safety of customer access. They want the store entrance out front, where it can be seen and they feel safer, rather than, in a less visible spot from the road that's there. But the other concern is the way the truck would maneuver if that were the case. There would have to be a large extension of that pavement drive aisle toward the back to allow it to make that hammerhead in the rear instead. So where we have a green area, privacy fence, and we're maintaining a tree buffer, that layout just in general has a lot more pavement.
Well, to us, it's very important how the building will look from the street. And I think that we're convinced that you can come up with a way to have a side entry that's safe and convenient for the people that are going to be shopping in the store. As far as having the entrance on the front, we're less concerned about that as long as people can be given a safe entry on the side or in the rear. We're working with other businesses that are building their businesses with reversed frontage. We're not asking for you to put the entry in the rear in this instance, because that's where your storage and warehouse area is going to be. But on the side, to get it away from the front, to allow you to bring the building towards the front and change the entire look of the situation to make it more pleasing for the people that live there is what we're requesting.
Understood. And we can look at if there's any shifting we can do of the building. However, we're pretty much driven by the stormwater and where that needs to be on this site. We can't switch it to the back because it's higher. So we're side to side pretty much driven by reserving that area for stormwater. But
we're also very much aware that the stormwater can be answered by putting the stormwater features underground. We're familiar with that technology as well.
Certainly, but in this case, we're in order to treat the amount of stormwater that we have to treat, we feel the best design and most effective is to have the basin here.
Larry, can I ask, are you looking for something kind of like a semi kind of chamfered corner on the building? Do you see that as kind of a compromise other than a side entrance?
Corner, a chamfered corner with the entry on the corner, that would be acceptable if it could be worked into a change in the facade of the building that would still provide the gabled end.
Okay.
And I think,
I believe, sorry.
I think it could. Looking at it in my mind, the gable end could provide sort of a covered portico for an entry on a chamfered corner.
Okay, and I think you mentioned something recently about the windows also. just a vertically articulated entrance and windows as well, right?
Mhm.
I think I remember that from the last conversation, but
I think that Lynn mentioned that actually.
I think it would be good that has the petition been shared with the applicant? I mean, we're going to have a public hearing that I think would be very busy.
Yeah.
The petitions that came in.
all those materials are on the website. Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, please put it in the record that there was a petition, or is a petition that has gone around, and with I don't know how many signatures, 200 I think, or plus, and just be noted in the record.
And that petition is on the website, so that's part of the records.
Along with other comments that may not have been included in the petition, but they're all on the website as well.
All right, anybody have any other suggestions?
If I could just follow up, I just want to mention that I did talk to Steve, who is the gentleman who had spoken to you before, about the county's Business Energy Advisors program. And so this is a free energy consulting program. As you may know, the town and village of Lansing are in a natural gas moratorium area, so that will certainly affect what you're going to do with the building, shall I say. And that's part of the requirement. Yeah, exactly. Right, as Dean has just alluded to, they'll do mechanicals as part of the analysis that they do. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because the county's 239 does consider energy efficiency as part of their comments here in Tompkins County. So they'll make that part of their binding recommendation on the planning board. So really important to follow up with the Tompkins County Business Energy Advisors. Thanks.
As well as obviously the other things that Dean usually mentions. We want the site lighting, the parking lot lighting to be dark sky compliant. We're concerned about the maximum temperature of the lights. And we really would like to see something a little more attractive for the sign.
Yeah, lighting, aren't we typically talking about 3,000 degree Kelvin or less?
Yes.
So do everything opposite of what the first Dollar General looks like.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Don't leave those empty parking places out front.
I think we're at the code minimum for parking. As far as the signs, that they're doing the channel letters, the smallest sign they have instead of the box sign, and a ground mounted monument sign instead of the pylon.
Good.
Good.
Yep, now if we can get away from the split face block and the flat roof and try to get as much blacktop on the side and in the back as we can for parking, that would go a long ways towards helping us get this through.
Good fencing and good landscaping.
Make good made bets.
Oh, I knew you were going to do that, Larry.
Good job, Larry.
All right, anybody have any more comments or suggestions for Karen?
I think I've said enough.
We talked to the people at Village Solars about providing some fresh food vending machines on premises.
Oh,
Burn.
Well, Dollar General does in fact have produce sections in some of their stores.
That's true.
That would be huge.
All right, well, thank you very much, Karen. If no one else has any suggestions to make, we appreciate your attention to these suggestions.
Thank you all for your time this evening. So is this at a point to send to the county for their comments, being it's a complete application? I'd like to incorporate those if we could moving forward.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned the business energy advisors there. Just if you could follow up with Steve and see if they've actually submitted that, because the county will take that into their consideration. They'll just kick it back to us if that's not done.
Understood. And then are we waiting on public hearing, or can we go ahead and open that up in December?
Did you hear her, CJ?
Yeah, does the planning board want to set a public hearing for December?
I think I'd like to see some of the revised ideas that you want to bring back to the board before we would
First, yes.
go ahead with scheduling a public hearing.
Yeah, I think the public would want to see some ideas of the exterior of the building.
Landscape plan.
We may be better off putting the public hearing, the first meeting in in January.
Yeah, it is kind of close to the holidays. Yeah, so if you can get us updated drawings, then I'll obviously pass those on to the board as soon as we receive them.
And we need the information back from the county.
Yeah, I've given Steve the contact information. I try to send that out first thing with the packet, so people can get rolling with them.
Yeah, we can do that, and we can look at having the architecture ready for the December meeting. And then hopefully could act in January, because we won't have county comments till that time. And we can go from there.
Sounds very good. Thank you, and have yourself a good Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Take care.
Yep.
Bye.
All right, CJ, did you want to review the Conservation Advisory Council's draft of natural resources inventory?
Actually, I think Tom would be probably the better person to give the little intro and update on that.
Okay.
I mean, if you want.
So this was a group effort. It was more than just the Conservation Advisory Council. We had a lot of input from Cornell Cooperative Extension, and it was based on the Tompkins County version of a natural resources inventory. That was sort of the template that we used. We also had input from the Cornell Department of City and Regional Planning. They had a class that was dedicated to working on this before everything stopped in March. But they actually did have quite a bit of input. And it's not, at this point, it's not a complete document. We still want to do a scenic resources inventory and an open space index, but that's going to take a little more time. Anyways, we wanted you folks to get a look at the draft and where we are with this so far. I think it's a pretty useful document. I like the maps, a lot of good maps in there. And it's broken up into, you know, a climate change section, hydrology, soils and geology, land use and land cover, and UNAs. I wanted to also point out that figure 1 is wrong. It should be, that should actually be map 1, which is a map of basically town of Lansing. And at some point, we also want to update the hydrology section. We have a hydrologist on our committee, and he would like to put some more time into that. Other than that, I hope people had a chance to look at it, or at least see the executive summary.
Yes.
And we'd appreciate any input. keeping in mind that this is still in the draft stage. Although I think we're pretty well getting there.
So when we want to provide input, we provide that to you and you'll take it to the committee?
Sure, that'll work.
You can also comment right in the link that I sent.
Okay.
Comment right there if you want.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Does anybody have any questions for Tom?
No, but a statement, Tom, and the Conservation Advisory Council has also been helping us out with the solar in terms of vegetative buffers and taking that on. So we really appreciate that work.
Yeah, we're just getting started on that. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. I did send Dean something that was done in a county in Maine that I think it was Kennebec County that I thought did a nice job of looking at different vegetation and their spread and their height, size, and tolerances to wetness and dryness, things like that, which is all useful information in terms of building buffers. There's also some documentation from Cornell Cooperative Extension that we might want to include, and I contacted Monica Roth to see if she could recommend any input to this, but I haven't heard back from her yet.
Well, thank you very much.
Sure.
We have a review of analysis of Office of Renewable Energy citing draft regulations. And who is going to bring that, CJ?
This was just more of a question to see if you had any question on Guy's analysis that I sent around. I've not yet received that from the Association of Towns, but I think everyone was just very relieved that the comments to the state on the draft regulations are now not due until, what is it? 7th? December 7th?
Yeah.
Okay, so a little breathing room there.
Elizabeth
Yes, well.
sent me that too.
Okay, great. We've been trying to get the word out about that. So if you haven't had a chance to look at Guy's analysis yet, please do. And if there's questions, of course, you can, send them to me and I'll aggregate them and send them on to Guy.
The info that you just sent, CJ, with the PowerPoint and the flow charts and all that, I thought that was very helpful.
Oh, excellent.
Kind of summarizes the whole situation in terms of how it's proposed to work or function for solar approved solar. What are they calling it? Power plants, solar power plant approval under, what is it? Something 93R, whatever.
Yeah, section 94 is what they're calling it. Section 94C or whatever. I thought that would be helpful. And also one of the firms presenting, Knopf Shaw, is a environmental law firm out of Rochester, who's done a lot of environmental legal analysis. So I thought you might find that interesting. And Guy's work is also very valuable too, although I suppose he mentioned that it probably comes off as a bit dark, if only because he, uses the word preemption over and over and over. But
well, it's true what it is. So.
Sure. Yes, but we're, again, I did send the link around to be able to put in comments for Office of Renewable Energy siting, which also has some of the draft language that that Dean has proposed as well. I mean, I also got a separate document from Dean, and we can kind of bring that all together because we need to get the local law into a, format that's like a local law. So if there's additional comments on that, if you need that link again, let me know and I can send it around directly to you. You can just type right in it collaboratively. Yeah.
Okay, in your planning report.
Last
agenda item.
Any questions? Well, I guess, Doug covered it a little bit, but I did want to mention that the town board did select Bergman PC as the firm slated to do the building and site conditions analysis for the highway department. They're going to be evaluating different options on the site, which will be really help them figure out which way to move forward with that project. And also the Parks and Trails and Parks, Recreation and Trails Master Plan website is open for comments. And I think I sent around the link to the plan's website. And if I didn't, I will put it here right now. And hopefully you also got the link from me regarding the
Survey.
hazard mitigation plan.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. Oh yes, the survey. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, so please take that survey. They've got a ton of responses so far, which is great. I think almost 400 now. And I know it's getting ready to go onto the be circulated on the LCSD newsletter, which is I think going to be the new version of the Lansing Star, it would seem. So hopefully we'll get some more responses out of that.
CJ.
Yeah.
With regard to the town barn, just to give everybody a little background, that's been there pretty much since the late 60s, early 70s. Before the town barn was where it is, the town utilized the building next to Scoops. So if you can imagine what the situation was when all the equipment and all the maintenance and all the activity went on in that little building. Things evolve, needs change, and sometimes things do have to move forward as far as keeping a building viable. So that just look back to where we started and get an idea of where things are going.
Yep, so they'll be looking at some different sites and working on some site programming with them. I can say the highway department has really done a lot of due diligence on this one. They got 22 proposals, interviewed, gosh, 4 or 5 firms, interviewed 2 firms at least twice, and went and visited some of the buildings that they designed, which I think was really a great endeavor for them too. So we're just trying to find out more and get a real solid construction number and some options for different building and site configurations. So we'll keep you posted.
So the extension of the town board, the road is not going to impact the future town barn. The extension of the road we just approved, or just?
That's the technically already been done. The actual physical improvement of it just doesn't exist on paper for real yet. But they're and the NYSEG tower will also be going up, I think, soon as well. They've been renewing their permit for, I don't know, that was before I got here, so I don't know the full details, but I think you probably remember the NYSEG tower as well. But yeah, we're bringing all these different, in essence, what the architecture and engineering firm Bergman that was selected will be doing really a full site analysis, as well as looking at the programming the highway department needs to run. And so, the building is 51 years old. So it's, it's put in its time. And so now they're just trying to figure out what to do next. But yeah, absolutely. The architects and engineers will have all of the site conditions. We'll make sure they get as much info as they can.
So are they looking at demoing the existing building or just supplementing it with a new building?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if I could bring it up here quickly, but I'm happy to send it to you if you're interested. But they are looking at 4 different options. And if you'd like, I can just do a very quick screen share if you're interested. But they are looking at, let's see, full demolition, building on site, building on other town property, and different essentially configurations. Well, I think they're trying to look as broadly as possible to make sure no stone is unturned. There have been a basic kind of needs assessment done, I don't know, maybe two years ago or so. And it kind of gave a spitball number on construction cost, which was helpful for sure. But I think we're really looking for more detail on that, on what the cost will be.
Are there hazards on that site? Any spillage?
Yeah, that's a really good question, right? And so, what's essentially the questions are, what's going on the site? Hold on just a moment and I can bring this up.
They'll have to do a phase 1 investigation at least. I
They
know
would?
there's salt leachate because they stored salt there a long time before the requirement came up to keep it in a building.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a really good point, which is that's really what the whole first essentially phase of this is to take a look at essentially all the conditions. If you hold on just a moment, I can bring this up.
Kelly, I know that building is old because I worked in it when I was brand new as a part-timer.
Really old.
Really old.
Here we go.
Larry, you can get the old solar panels.
Let's go to this here. These are their facilities. Some of the. Okay, so these are 4 of the options that they're going to consider: renovate the existing building, build new build on site, converting this to cold storage, and building a different building here. Considering building on the land across the way.
Oh, no, that's the mulch pile.
All right.
Oh, that's the ball field.
Ball
Don't
field.
be taking
Yeah,
our
so-
mulch pile.
Ball fields.
And yeah, so
Ball fields, right, you're right. Thank you.
it will.
Ball fields in Lansing are the political third rail. You don't want to touch it.
Fair enough, which is why they'd be also looking at any other town lands to see if, is there another suitable site that happens to be owned by the town that would also be good for the highway department.
As
So
far as
stay
being
tuned.
central to the town, that's about the best site.
Well, stay tuned. We'll keep you posted.
Right.
All right, that's it.
All right. Anything else, CJ?
I think that's the highlights.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, the meeting's adjourned.
Hi, happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Great.
Yeah.
Nice holiday.
Have a great time. See ya.
Not
You guys.
Farewell.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Enjoy.
Bye, everybody.
Adios.